What's up, everybody? This is Zoya, the Russian Korean. So lately, you guys have been asking me in the comments, when is the next Explore the Lore video? Are you going to be doing any more League of Legends lore videos? And yes, I heard you guys loud and clear. I personally actually really like Explore the Lore stuff, but it's just that recently all these new videos have been coming out, and I've been trying to jump on them as fast as I can. So yeah, that's the whole reason. But today is another Explore the Lore day, which means it's time for us to go on the League of Legends Universe website and explore. And today, I thought a good region to look at after Ionia. I've done a Explore the Lore Ionia video, so you can check it out. I thought a good place to continue after Ionia would be NOXUS. Ionia and NOXUS have a very interesting relationship with each other because, you know, one was the invader and the other was like the defender. So I'm just kind of wondering about NOXUS, and also since I did a react to the Tales of Runeterra NOXUS video, a lot of you guys have posted interesting comments in terms of what happened in NOXUS, and I just thought it was pretty intriguing how there's this whole story about like NOXUS before a certain time and after a certain time, and some people are like this, some people are like that, so it seems like a very diverse and complex region. So I thought it would be a fun place to explore. Okay, so I'm on the Universe League of Legends website, and here are all the different regions, and of course we're going to click on NOXUS. Ooh, nice art here. Okay, guys, we're here. Ooh, there's like an animation. Cool, little birdies flying. Clouds. Looks so realistic. Oh, the sun. Wow. Okay, so reading time. NOXUS is a powerful empire with a fearsome reputation. To those beyond its borders, it's brutal, expansionist, and threatening. Yet those who look past its warlike exterior see an unusually inclusive society, where the strengths and talents of its people are respected and cultivated. Interesting. The Noxi were once fierce barbarian tribes, until they stormed the ancient city that now lies at the heart of their domain. Kind of sounds like Rome. I mentioned it in one of my comments, but they do remind me of Romans. Under threat from all sides, they aggressively took the fight to their enemies, pushing their borders outward with each passing year. This struggle for survival has made modern Noxians a deeply proud people who value strength above all, though that strength can manifest in many different forms. Okay. Anyone can rise to a position of power and respect within NOXUS if they display the necessary aptitude regardless of social standing, background, homeland, or wealth. Those who are able to wield magic are held in particularly high esteem and are actively sought out in order that their special talents may be honed and best harnessed for the benefit of the Empire. But in spite of this meritocratic ideal, the old noble houses still wield considerable power, and some fear that the greatest threat to NOXUS comes not from its enemies, but from within. Aha, interesting. So they have this system where they basically have equality of opportunity, which I personally believe to be a good thing. But of course, there are always the old Scrooges somewhere behind the scenes who try to cling to power as much as they can and don't give opportunities to new people, and oftentimes when reform is needed, they are there to actively oppose it. So let's take a look at the different champions of NOXUS here. Okay, view all NOXUS champions, please. Cassiopeia, Darius, I knew about Darius. Draven, yes, I knew about Draven. Katarina, okay. Kled, LeBlanc, Riven, Sion, Swain, Talon, and Vladimir. I thought there would be more NOXUS champions. There were a lot more Ionian champions, I feel like. Right. A surprise for me is Kled, because I personally thought he was a Yordle. I'm sorry, all Kled mains, now I know that he's from NOXUS. They all have this fierce look to them. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna get into the individual stories in this episode, because I feel like every character has a pretty deep story, and if I try to get into every single one of them, this video is gonna be like 4 hours long. So I'm just gonna skip the individual stories for now and just kind of look at the region in general. And I just clicked on the featured video, and it turned out to be the video that I did a react to. That's pretty fun. So it's like I'm familiar with something that's here. Let's look at the art. That's my favorite part. Looking at the environment art. Whoa. Okay, let's just take it all in one by one. Ooh. Layers of history. The immortal bastion at the heart of NOXUS is far more ancient than the Empire itself. It is said that it was constructed on the order of the dread revenant Mordekaiser. So Mordekaiser used to be from NOXUS, or no? And parts of it have been raised and rebuilt over the centuries, such that there are layers to its streets, and some districts now lie below ground. Few dare walk these streets after dark without guards to protect. So I'm gonna have to check out Mordekaiser, because he's not a champion from this region. So I'm assuming he's like from way earlier. I know that he's like from days of old, but yeah, I'll have to explore that. Next. I get a Middle Eastern vibe here. A number of ports and cities in northern Shurima were voluntarily assimilated into the Empire. The original inhabitants of these settlements live in relative peace with their Noxian counterparts, seeing the exchange of food and preferential trade as a price worth paying for military protection from raiders. Okay, so it's like a diplomatic kind of relationship. They are under the Empire, but they're also benefiting from the Empire. Hence the diversity, I guess. Again, very similar to Rome. Wow. So is this like a Colosseum or something? Noxians respect strength above all things, and the only way to remain strong is to be constantly tested. They relish the opportunity to compete with one another, since to not be challenged is to grow weak, and even those at the peak of power must always seek new ways to challenge themselves, or they will not remain in power for long. It is not just physical or martial strength that Noxians admire. Those who demonstrate expertise in politics, craftsmanship, trade, and magic all help to create a stronger Noxus. So, constant competition, constant pressure, constant challenging. Sounds like South Korea, guys. Sounds like South Korea. I like their architecture. Looks very stern and cold. I think it expresses really well the character of the people. Noxus is an aggressive and expansionist empire, always looking to widen its borders by conquering new lands. It does not always do so by violence. Indeed, many are the nations that have taken the knee before the Grand General, seeing a chance for greater stability and security in joining the empire. Those who defy Noxus, however, are crushed without mercy. So basically, don't fight against Noxus. Just surrender or die. Although, of course, we know that Irelia and her resistance was successful, but I guess that's just like 0.01 chance of that succeeding. Oppressive and defensible. Noxian cities are characterized by imposing structures, claustrophobic streets, crenellated buildings, steep sloped walls, and immense gateways. Wow, that was a mouthful. Their cities emphasize the strength and dominance of the Empire and are highly defensible. An enemy attempting to take a Noxian city by force can expect to be fought and resisted at every turn, for even the humblest home is built like a fortress. What is that? It's kind of dark and scary. It looks like a prison almost. Wow. Is it like gates or something? And the skyline here, or the view of the city. Wow. I like the layers here. It starts like at the bottom, then goes to the top, and then it's kind of like this, all toward this one peak. Very linear, kind of geometric structure. You can also see here, the artist kind of trying to show the brighter side and the kind of the darker side here. Nice. Okay, now let's look at a life in Noxus. Ooh. Okay, so there are different kinds of people here, but they're all dressed like warriors, definitely. Culturally inclusive. As Noxus expands and defeats neighboring cultures and cities, it offers the conquered people a choice. Swear loyalty to Noxus and be judged solely on your worth, or be destroyed. This is not subterfuge or any kind of ruse. The Noxians are as good as their word, and many who have embraced their conqueror's way of life find their prospect greatly improved. But those who refuse to bend the knee are crushed without mercy. Well, at least they are genuine in giving opportunities to people. Ooh, look at these hounds. The dogs look surprisingly normal. Anyone can prosper in Noxus, no matter their background, so long as they have the strength of will and the drive to succeed. The warlord Darius is a perfect example of this, rising from nothing to become one of the Empire's most powerful leaders. Despite this meritocratic ideal, the old noble families still wield considerable power at the heart of the Empire, and some fear that the greatest threat to Nox comes from that. Okay, we read that kind of sentence before. What is this? Drakehounds. Drakehounds are a species of wingless, wolf-sized carnivores that lair in the mountains to the north of the Noxian capital. They are vicious pack hunters and much favored in NOXUS as war beasts, guard creatures, and expensive, albeit dangerous, pets. To own one or more Drakehounds is a visible symbol of wealth and power. Nice. So these don't look like the Drakehounds. But, okay. Noxus and magic. This looks like Swain. Noxians generally regard magic as another powerful tool in their arsenal. Those who are able to wield it are held in high esteem and are actively sought out, even beyond the borders of Noxus, in order their special talents may be honed and best harnessed to the benefit of them. Okay. You can definitely tell from his hand that he's got power. Interesting picture here. I just took a moment to look at this. So I can see that they're probably entering a Noxian city. I'm not sure if it's a settlement or what, or the actual central city from like another angle. Doesn't look like it, but maybe it is. And there are guards here, and they are letting through this carriage. And right next to the carriage, you can see there are two people. Looks like a parent and a child, and they're walking together. They don't look like they're rich or anything, but they just got their stuff, and maybe they just came from somewhere and they're seeking refuge or settlement here, and they are welcomed in. So, yeah, I think that goes with the whole feel of, you know, given opportunity and given a chance to people who have, like, basically nothing, just anything that fits on that carriage. Next is the military. Noxus has one of the largest armies in the known world, composed of elite troops such as the Trifarian Legion, as well as hundreds of individual localized warbands. Led by their own chieftains, marshals, and captains, each warband is unique with its own culture, hierarchy, and favored way of war. They fulfill specific roles as part of a much larger war host, perhaps fighting as frontline shock troops, heavy infantry, scouts, assassins, or cavalry, whatever best suits their skills. So they use whatever they can, basically. Like, everything's fair game, as long as you do it well. Even within the Trifarian Legion, there is little uniformity within the ranks. In Noxus, a warrior's natural talents and specialties are embraced, rather than forcing them to conform to a certain way of waging war. This carries across into all aspects of Noxian life. They believe in discovering what you are good at, and then finding a way to utilize that to make the Empire stronger. That's an interesting dynamic. So really the only thing that unites them is the banner of Noxus. Everything else is quite individual. The most elite, respected, and battle-hardened military force within the Noxian Empire, the Legion, is led by Darius himself. They are not only the best soldiers in Noxus, but also the most loyal, utterly devoted to the Empire and its leaders. Their armor is heavy and utilitarian, and often features 3 indentations hammered into their breastplates, representing the Trifarian, the 3 principles of strength, and the name given to Grand General Swain's ruling council. So Swain definitely plays a big role, I guess, in the structure and history of Noxus. Again, I'm not going to explore the individual stories in this episode, but I probably will have to look at it separately later. But one thing I will say is my husband is pretty good at playing Swain. He likes playing Swain. The forges of Noxus never cool, churning out swords, axes, and armor in vast quantities for distribution to the war hosts. The Empire values function over form, their designs often incorporating additional uses such as hooked handles to unhorse mounted enemies. In recent years, Noxus has begun to experiment with crude black powder weapons and chemtech from Zon, though the results are mixed, often as destructive to friend as they are to the enemy. Yeah, it looks like most of the weapons are just kind of cold steel slash kind of weapons, not really gunpowder, but I guess here it says that they've started to use that. Noxian forged weapons, tools, and implements tend to share the same severe aesthetic as can be seen in the Empire's architecture and dress. Yes, I noticed that. Variety and uniformity at the same time. Axe of Darius. It's like it's in a museum and I'm just looking at it. War Masons are resourceful scouts, engineers, and warriors who design and oversee the construction of roads, bridges, and fortifications. Often the first indication of Noxian expansion is not the sight of troops on the march, but a lone war mason scouting enemy territory for possible invasion routes. So like, you're out and about in the field doing whatever, and then you see a war mason and you're like, I know who's coming next. Basilisks. Monstrous reptiles from the southern jungles, basilisks are fierce predators that can grow to gargantuan sizes. Young basilisks are prized riding beasts if you can stand against their charge. After they become too large for a rider to control, they are put to use as beasts of burden, or sometimes as living battering rams to smash down the walls of besieged cities. So Noxus has an interesting zoology. Here we have size comparison. Pretty chunky man. And Basilisk right next to him looks pretty big. Okay, there's a featured link here. I believe if I just click on it, okay, I'm not gonna read it. I'm not gonna spoil it. But that was a comic. There is a comic about Darius. Cool. And there is a lady there. And the last thing on the list is a video, a featured video from Dev Diary. So let's see if they will tell us anything new that we haven't seen yet.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. I'm Ant Reynolds-Lanay and I'm a senior writer on the world building team.
Hi there, I'm Maisie and I'm a concept artist on the world building team.
And today we're going to be talking a little about NOXUS. NOXUS is a massive expansionist, aggressive empire. It's constantly moving its borders out. It's actually one of the biggest empires in Runeterra, as well as one of the oldest. It's also one of the most culturally inclusive places. They're constantly bringing more people into the empire, which to them adds strength to the empire.
Traditionally, NOXUS has always been portrayed as the bad guys or the evil faction. So today we'd like to take a closer look at them and to dive into some of the nuances and details that make up the empire. NOXUS is situated
After
on land
looking
that's
at
very
it,
arid and devoid of resources.
I wouldn't necessarily
which
say
makes
that
it
they're
hard
like
for them to
evil,
grow any crops.
you know?
And because it's so
definitely had
hard
that
for them
feel
to
before,
sustain
but
themselves, they've taken to
not
expanding
anymore.
outwards and conquering other nations.
So at the heart of NOXUS, the capital, is actually built around an ancient fortress called the Immortal Bastion. So the Immortal Bastion was actually a castle that was built by Mordekaiser way in the past. He was a tyrant, and all these different barbarian tribes that lived in the area actually combined their forces to overthrow him. And once they finally overthrew him, they took the Immortal Bastion as their own, and that is what started the Noxian Empire. So NOXUS is truly huge. It's expanded in all sorts of different areas. So in the north, it's expanded up towards the Freljord, pushing into the Freljord.
So now I see the relationship between
in the
Mordekaiser
south,
and
it's pushed
NOXUS.
into Shreema. It's actually taken over a whole bunch of the northern Shreeman cities. It hasn't taken on Piltover or Zorn yet. It's neutral with those guys. It uses that as a trade port, but you can tell that in the future they might be taking a bit more interest there. To the east, they had an attack against Ionia, but that did not go so well. But you know it's only a matter of time before they try and push their border back out that way.
So NOXUS doesn't always conquer their territories violently. In many cases, some of these cities tend to want to bend the knee to NOXUS because they get great benefits in trade and protection. As an example of assimilation, here's one of a northern Shuriman harbor where Noxians have, instead of taking over the city, set up this port of call and enclave where they've started to live amongst the locals and take on some of their customs. The governor of this harbor has taken to wearing Shuriman clothing even though he's from Noxus in order to gain favor with the locals. Noxians value strength over all else. Primarily, this is martial and physical strength, although Noxians acknowledge strength in all its different forms. So if you're a very successful trader, or if you're politically inclined, you too can find great success in NOXUS.
NOXUS's view on strength is exemplified by a notion that they call the Tripharics. The Tripharics, otherwise known as the principles of strength, are the three aspects of strength that they've identified which they believe that NOXUS needs to be strong in all of these areas. And those three areas are might, vision, and guile. Their idea is that they need to be strong in all of these, and if they're weak in one area, it can actually bring the whole of NOXUS down. So the Tripharics is also the name given to the tri-leadership of NOXUS. This was an idea that Swain has brought in. Rather than having a singular emperor, NOXUS is actually led by three leaders, one each who represents one of those principles of strength. So you've got Swain, who represents vision. You've got Darius, who represents might, who is the leader of the military side of things, and an unnamed, sort of faceless figure who represents guile. Now, one of the ideas with this concept is that a single emperor can always be fallible and could bring NOXUS down. But if you've got three leaders there, they can each hold each other more accountable.
NOXUS is a faction rife with symbology, and so the Tripharics is very commonly represented throughout the Empire. One of these instances is through the Noxian crest. If we look at the Noxian crest, the eyes represent vision, the pillars at the bottom represent might, and the blades represent guile. Within the Empire, the Triferix is also represented by its architecture, such as this Noxian Tower, which shows the 3 pillars of strength. In much of Noxus, people tend to build homes and structures that are imposing and commanding to reflect their belief in the principle of might.
When NOXUS goes to war, it's very different than a place like Demacia going to war. Demacia is very uniform, very regimented. NOXUS is very different from that. It's not chaos, but they see strength in all the variety and diversity of the different ways its warbands fight.
War Masons are a distinct branch of the Noxian military.
I guess their strength
and they
is
scout
in
ahead
their diversity.
And are
And like
responsible
he
for
said,
engineering
it's not
feats such as
chaos.
bridges, structures, anything that the Noxian army might need to expand outwards. Of all the warbands, the Trifarian Legion is the most elite and the most feared. It's led by Darius himself, and they're so named to reflect the core principles of Noxus. Many warriors from the other warbands would give an arm and a leg to be part of this legion. Aside from having a really large army, NOXUS is also very open to experimenting with new things and constantly adapting and changing as new ideas and people flood into the Empire. So one of the new technologies that NOXUS is experimenting with are black powder weapons, and they've also been taking an interest in Piltover and Zon due to the high levels of technology found there.
Magic is also just regarded as just another powerful tool in their arsenal. So it's the kind of thing that they would be looking for different mages to bring into NOXUS to hone their powers for the betterment and strength of NOXUS. It's the kind of place where they might embrace things that other cultures might have a few more taboos around. As an example of that is like bringing Scion back. They would just see this as a great thing for NOXUS because he's this powerful warlord. Other people might be like, I don't know if you should be doing that.
NOXUS also makes use of a lot of creatures throughout the Empire, whether it's in their war efforts or in their civilian life. So, for example, they might have living battering rams or beasts of burden that pull their war machines. And in daily life, they might have a drakehound, especially if they're rich and noble, as a display of wealth and power. We hope you guys enjoyed this look into NOXUS, and if you'd like to know more, we have new art and new bios on Universe, so please check it out. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Nice video. A lot of the information I already read on the website, but then there were some details that were new that I didn't know about, like the thing with Mordekaiser. Like I was wondering what the connection was, and they made it pretty clear. So thanks, I appreciate that. I think the last thing I want to do is just look at the map again and kind of remind myself where NOXUS actually lies geographically compared to other regions. Okay, begin exploring. Okay, so here we are. NOXUS is right here. And you can tell they've taken over some islands here in Ionia. Yeah, they haven't really gotten to Piltover and Zon yet, like they said. Here's Freljord and Demacia. So they're neighbors with Freljord, Demacia, Piltover and Zon, and across the water here, Ionia. And Bilgewater. Okay, and then also Shurima here. Part of Shurima, northern Shurima is part of the Noxian Empire. Nice. Zoom in. Whoa! The Immortal Bastion right here. Wow, guys, this is cool. This is cool. Just looking at things. How come this is not showing as the little cities here? Ooh, look at this. I saw this picture too. Oh, it's snowing. It's snowing in Freljord. I love this map. I could just keep looking at it. Well, guys, what did you think about this Explore the Lore episode? What do you guys think about NOXUS? Is it your favorite region? What do you think about its culture and character and dynamic? Do you have any favorite Noxian champion? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. This was Zoya, the Russian Korean. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.